If you run your own business, then you may be really concerned about the impact of COVID-19. And to help you, I've put together a training session to share some of the key principles and strategies that I've helped my small business clients implement to help them get through this and make sure that they have good, solid businesses at the back of this disaster. So, to help you get the most out of this training session, make sure that you get yourself in the right environment, clear of any distractions, grab pen and paper. And as I go through the training session, make sure that you're taking down notes of things that you are going to need to implement off the back of that training. If you have a business partner, please grab your business partner and make sure that you put some time aside at the end of this training session to consolidate your notes and to build yourself at least a 90-day plan to get through this.
Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing I want you to reflect on is, what is your emotional state at the moment? How are you feeling about your business? Are you worried? Are you frustrated? Are you concerned? I think it's really important just to take stock of how you are thinking, because one of the things that I can tell you is that your mindset is going to be absolutely critical over this next stage. What you need to think about is leadership. Your people, your team, your customers, they all need leadership from you right now. So they want to see that you are in control and that you have a plan. You definitely need to make sure that you are proactive in everything that you do now. This is not about waiting and responding to events. This is about making sure that you control what you can control, you influence the bits that you can influence, and all of the stuff that is outside of your control, you just put to one side. There is so much opportunity right now for you to take hold of and move your business forward. It's just about having the right mindset. This is a short-term challenge, and I think when things are tough, it's really easy to feel like this is going to last forever, but it is not going to last forever. I'm not an expert, but at the moment, people are saying anywhere between 3 to 6 months. And the worst of it is probably going to happen over the next 2 to 3 months. But it is short term. And it's important that all of the things you do over the next 3 months set you up to come out the back of this a stronger, better business. Now, the key thing for me is that you do get what you focus on. So if you focus on all of the negative aspects of the situation that we're in, you are going to find lots and lots of evidence in your environment to support your views and beliefs. So in other words, if you believe that you can't get through this and that everything's gone to pot, then you will find loads of things and loads of people that will support that belief. But if you believe that this is an opportunity for your business to be stronger, if it's an opportunity for your business to work smarter, for you to really get your team working together and get morale focused, if this is an opportunity for you to really manage your business model and improve the way that you work, then that's what you will find. Now, I'm not taking anything away from the fact that this is challenging and some businesses will be affected much more dramatically than others. But the only way to get through this is by following those 4 points that I've got on that screen. You have to lead at the moment. That's what everybody wants. It's showtime. However you are feeling all of the frustration, you need to put that to one side and you've got to step up and help your business get through this. You need to be proactive and you need to have a plan. This is a short-term challenge. Remember that. You need to get through the next 3 to 4 months and your business will thrive thereafter. And you get what you focus on. Focus on the opportunities and on the positive, and you will find loads and loads of opportunities in front of you. So over this training session, I'm going to focus on the fundamentals. The first thing that all of us need to make sure is that we are managing the cash position in our businesses. For all of us, the biggest concern is the impact on cash flow. Then we need to make sure that you retain your existing customers. I'm going to talk you through a couple of things to make sure you can do that. Of course, managing and leading and organizing your team is a really big deal at the moment. Your team members will be worried. I'm sure you're worried, and we don't want to lay anybody off. We want to keep our team members employed. They've got mortgages to pay. They need to feed their families, so we need to do everything that we can do to make sure we look after them. And the key thing is, do not stop marketing. We need to make sure that there's lots of marketing going on, and I'm going to talk you through that in a second. So my hope is that off the back of this, you're going to create a 90-day plan for your business. That's what I've got all of my clients to do. And the reason is pretty simple, really. Number one is you need to have a plan that helps you understand how you're going to contain the impact on cash, team, and customers. The other thing is that you need to displace worry with activity. This is a mantra that I have, and it's something that I've used for years and years, and I teach all of my clients, and it's served me well. It's so easy to get caught up worrying about things, and you just get stuck in your own head going around in circles. But what I find is if you can just flick a switch and start doing instead of worrying, you start to feel better, and generally you get better results. And that's what this training is all about. It's about you displacing worry with activity, because you'll have the tools that you need to build a proper plan. And the other thing is you obviously need to prepare for beyond COVID-19. So let's get stuck into the managing cash first. So the first thing that you're going to have to do, if you do not have this already, is to create a rolling 3-month weekly cash flow forecast. Now, if you have quite a serious impact on your cash position, or you might be anticipating a serious impact on your cash position, it is definitely going to have to be weekly. If you've got lots of cash reserves here, you could afford for this to be a monthly cash flow forecast. I would take it out to 12 months. But for many of you who are really concerned about cash, and if cash is tight and you don't have a lot of reserves, this needs to be broken down by week. What you really need to do here is optimize your working capital cycle. So this is about making sure that you are managing your cash as effectively as possible. So what does this mean? So the first thing is that you need to make sure that you're trying to get as much cash into your business right now as possible. So what's important here is stuff like making sure that your debtors are being managed properly. So you should be having a weekly credit control meeting where you're looking through your debtors list and somebody is on the phone chasing all of your overdue debtors. That's really, really critical. If you've got lots and lots in overdue, then you might need to have a meeting maybe 2 or 3 times a week. But at the very least, make sure that you are having a weekly debtors focus, and you are making sure that there are phone calls happening and that there are payment plans in place, because in 3-4 weeks time, when cash starts to squeeze and companies are really, really struggling, you want to make sure that you've been paid. That's really, really important. Another way of increasing cash coming into your business is, if this is at all possible, try and make sure that you get paid up front, or at least partial payments up front. So for some of us, that's not really possible, but for those of you that this is possible, make sure that you focus on that. Sometimes there are clients that I work with that have different products that sort of have an upfront element to it. It might be a good time to try and focus on selling those. But if that's not possible, then I would just try and flip your thinking to see, is there something that you could do to try and get cash up front? If it's not possible, then fair enough. Another thing that you might want to do is see if you can complete work faster. So for any of you that might own any kind of service businesses or building companies, or anything where you're providing a service, if you can turn that service around faster, if you can complete things faster, it means you can invoice faster. So the key thing you want to do here is make sure that you have a good understanding of how you can manage these 3 areas in your business. The other way is by making sure that you are slowing down the money that is going out of your business. And I want to be clear here. I do not mean that you're going to take liberties with your suppliers. Everybody needs to get paid. We need to make sure that money is moving through the economy and that businesses are getting paid. So I'm talking about if you can come up with agreements with your suppliers. So if possible, contact all of your key suppliers and see if they'll extend terms. See if they'll give you 45 days instead of 30 or 60 days. That's a really, really good thing for you to do, because if you can have the money coming in faster than it's going out, then your working capital cycle is going to really help you over the coming months. All of this stuff is pretty good common sense business stuff that you should be doing anyway, but it becomes so critical to make sure that you are absolutely on top of all of the things that I'm talking about here. Another thing that you might want to do is think about your commitments to HMRC. For some of you, it might be a good idea to, by agreement, strike up time to pay deals with them to slow down any money going out in terms of VAT, corporation tax, or PAYE. Now, I stress this needs to happen by agreement. You need to speak to your accountant about the right way to approach these conversations. The key thing here is that you want to make sure that you have as much cash in reserve as possible to weather the storm over the next 3 months. If you have any capital expenditure that you're planning uh, on kind of following through on, it might be a really good time to pause it. So unless something is absolutely mission critical, please consider pausing capital expenditure. If there are any other big investments that you need to make, you really need to be asking yourself the question if now is the right time to be doing that. Another way of slowing down the money flowing out of your business is to consider whether payment holidays might be an option for you. So if you have any loans or mortgages or rent that you pay, it's probably a great idea to go to your mortgage providers and your loan providers and to your landlord and negotiate a 3 to 6 month mortgage holiday. All you're doing is you're extending in terms of the loans and mortgages, you're extending the term that of those loans and mortgages. And in the rent situation, it might be that there's a little bit of flexibility. But again, I stress this stuff needs to be done by agreement. But if you can do that and you reduce the cash burn in your business, then that is a really good thing to consider at this time. The other thing is that there is quite a lot of government support that's been announced, and this is a changing a changing situation. It's Friday the 20th of March, so it might be, if you're listening to this after this date, that there's even more government support. If you follow me on Facebook, I'll be issuing a document with all of the updated support for your business. So just make sure that you follow me on Facebook, and then we can get that information over to you. But there's a package of various loans and grants, just to kind of highlight the key things that might be applicable to your business right now. There's a business interruption loan scheme that was announced on Tuesday of this week. That's going to give apparently all small businesses, there's an earmarked amount of 330 billion, which is about 5 million per small company. It's earmarked. This loan scheme is going to be, there's not a lot of detail at the moment. It's been announced, but the banks aren't completely clear on how this is going to work. I think it's going to be under the EFG scheme, for those of you that know, the Enterprise Finance Guarantee Scheme, which means that the government will back 80% of the loan value. It's also been announced that there will be a 6-month interest-free period, and potentially quite low interest and low setup costs on this loan. So if you are really struggling and you do need additional cash coming into your business, the interruption loan scheme is an option for you. So make sure you speak to your bank as early as possible. The other thing is, if you're in the retail, hospitality and leisure space, obviously your business has been impacted massively by the announcements on Monday of this week. There is a 12-month business rate holiday for you, so that's something that is going to help a lot of businesses out there. If you qualify for rate relief, so if you have 100% rate relief, in other words, you do not pay any rates, then there's also a £10,000 grant that you would be able to access. So that's also very, very helpful. Again, for those in the retail, hospitality and leisure spaces, there's a £25,000 grant that's been announced. And so far it's been announced that statutory sick pay will be covered for 14 days for anybody that's off due to COVID-19. So these are some of the packages that have been announced. There are others, and this is something that is changing. So make sure that you are completely familiar with what loan options are available to you, what grants are available to you, and make sure that you're applying for those as early as possible and in contact with your key stakeholders to make sure that you're getting this into your business. So before I move on, just make sure that you take some time to think through what I've just gone through. If you don't have a cash flow forecast, you're going to have to put one together. Make sure that you are really increasing the inflow into your business. Make sure that you are reducing the speed at which cash is exiting your business, and make sure that you familiarize yourself with all of those government loans and grants to help you out. So the next thing for you to think about is retaining your existing customers. Now, I have no doubt that one of the most important things for every single business is to make sure you are looking after those customers that already do business with you. So to help you do that, I want you to think about this. Are you communicating frequently with these customers? Make sure that they understand that you are completely hygienic, you're making sure that you are reducing any unnecessary risks. Make sure that you communicate the fact that you are open for business, that you are there, you want their support. Make sure that you are in contact. And if there are any changes, if you need to change the way that you help these businesses. So for some of us, we've had to stop going face to face and everything's moved virtual. Any changes in the way that you need to service your clients, make sure that you communicate that in advance. I don't think you can communicate enough with your existing customers at the moment. And the big litmus test for you here is if clients are coming to you and asking you questions, then you failed. The key thing is to anticipate the questions, anticipate any concerns, and communicate proactively and positively with your existing customer base. Give them the confidence that you are on top of this and that you're going to continue to serve them and look after them. The other thing you're going to have to think about is if this applies to you, if you do carry stock, make sure you have enough stock in terms of those lines that are high value lines, those lines that move. If you're only carrying bare minimum stock levels, it's something that you might want to reconsider. I think this is something where you don't want to you want to find the balance between not tying up too much of your cash in stock, but certainly whoever has stock at the moment is going to win. So make sure that you've got enough stock of those key lines. Think about who you really need to reach out to. So existing customers, clients, who do you need to reach out to? Who do you need to just give that extra bit of reassurance to? If you've got, the old 80-20 principle in your business, so 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your customers, make sure that you pick up the phone, have a conversation with them, get your sales team to pick up the phone and have a conversation with them. Just connect and build that relationship and make sure that they know that you are there to have a conversation, to listen if you need to, but just make sure that you're really focusing on building the relationship and looking after your key clients at the moment. You might want to think about who needs some extra support. There might be some companies, some businesses out there that have been good clients for a long period of time. And if some of them are in those industries that have been really massively affected by what's happened over the last few weeks, then maybe you need to think about if you can be a bit more flexible. Can you give them payment holidays? Can you do anything to support them and to help them over this tough time? I think one of the really important things here is that you help if you are in the position to. And if you do help your clients, they will remember it and they will reward you with loyalty. So if you can, please see if you can, reach out to some of those clients and be flexible in how you service them. Now is the time to go above and beyond. Now is the time to pull out all of the stops. Personally, in my business, I'm doing everything I can to help all of my clients get what they need to help them get through this challenging time. Do the same in your space. Make sure that you lead your clients and your customers. Give them loads of useful information. Really help them through this tough time. It's really important. The next bit is about leading and managing and organizing your team. So before I go into the detail on this, just take some time to think back to the bits that I've just gone through in terms of customer retention and think about what actions you need to take to help look after your existing customers and to keep them active in your business. Right, so leading, managing and organizing your team. We really need to look after our team members at the moment, and the first thing that you need to do as the owner and as the leader of your company is to make sure that you are communicating frequently with everyone. Make sure that you are positive and make sure that you are confident. Your people want to know that you have a plan. They want to know that you are on top of things at the moment. They will be worried about losing their jobs. They'll be worried about not having enough money to pay mortgages and all of that. So please make sure that you are communicating with them, that you're telling them, keep them in the loop with the changes that you're planning to make. Tell them about the 90-day plan you've put together. Make sure that they know that their boss is on top of things. That's really, really important. Make sure that you are protecting your team. And this is something that's fairly obvious at this stage. I mean, this is, as I said, it's Friday the 20th. And even this late in the day, I've noticed that there are some companies that are just not practicing what they should be practicing. Social distancing is something that the government's asked us to do. I've noticed that some businesses are just completely ignoring that. So make sure that you're taking the time to be clear on what your policies are around hygiene, that you are clear on what your policies are around making sure that there's not unnecessary contact, and make sure your people are sticking to it. So make sure you have clear policies in place, make sure it's written down somewhere, communicated and re-communicate over and over and over again. You really need to make sure that you keep your people as healthy as possible, and obviously keep yourself as healthy as possible. So clear policies are really, really important. It sounds so obvious, but it's so easy to miss the obvious stuff sometimes whilst we're worrying about some of the other aspects in our business. If you are in the position where it's not really possible for some of your business activities to be done off-site, then one of the things you might need to consider is if you can run split shifts. So you might have a team that comes in, the first half of the day, and a team that comes in the second half of the day. Anything that starts to really reduce risk of any contamination. So if this is something that you can do, think about how you might be able to implement this. If it's something that you're already doing, then that's great, and that obviously continue to do that and make sure that you're doing it as well as possible. Now, for some of you in your business, you might find that there are some places where there's quite a lot of demand. So it might be that, for example, the operational parts of your business are under exceptional demand, and maybe the sales team might not be run off their feet because they might not be having sales meetings, for example. What I'd encourage you to do is look if you can reposition your players. So move all of your team members into the spaces where the demand is. And this is something that's fairly obvious. Most of you will probably be doing this, but maybe think about where there's additional capacity, because sometimes there are some people in your business that are pretty smart, so they're not being utilized massively, and you've got other parts of your business where everyone's really stressed out. So make sure that you're doing this, and I think this is a changing situation all the time, so constantly review this. Really what you should be doing as the business owner is taking, I reckon, probably about 15, 20 minutes every single day just to get into your own head and come up with a plan for the day. Review what's going on, review what's working and what's not working. Think about where the demand and the pressure is in your business, and think about where there isn't demand and pressure and how you might be able to reposition resources in your company. But yeah, the key thing is, make sure that you're being flexible in your thinking around how you use your team members at the moment. Obviously, if you are going to get team members into spaces of work that they might not be familiar with, it's really important that they're properly trained. In my book, if something's not written down, then it doesn't exist. So if you have processes that you need people to follow, if possible, try and write some stuff down if that's practical so that they can follow it. Get team members to help you with this, especially with those kind of high routine tasks and things where there's likely to be an error. So reposition people, but give them the tools to be able to do their jobs properly. The main thing is to keep your A players. You really need to do everything you can to keep all of those great team members in your business. So if you have A players, you want to make sure that you're looking after them, you're keeping in touch, you're utilizing them, and you're doing everything in your power to make sure that they are there, because in 4 months' time, 3 months' time, we're going to need those great team members to help us build our businesses and move forward. So do everything in your power to make sure you're doing that. Something that you might want to think about is if you have team members that might not be very busy at the moment, then whether you could get them to utilize their holidays. What you don't want is to go through a quietish spell over the next few weeks. only then for all of this to start normalizing, and then as all of that pent up demand releases, for you to have key team members on holiday, that would not be a great thing for you and your business. So if it is possible to get your team members to utilize holiday, you can do that. By law, you need to give them twice the amount of notice in relation to the holiday that you want them to take. So in other words, if you want someone to take 4 days holiday, you need to give them 8 days notice. But I think this is the time when you can really sit down with your team members and have some pretty open conversations about stuff like this, around flexible working, around how they might be able to utilize holidays. That is a much better option than having to go down the route of making people redundant. And my understanding is that there's going to be some announcements today made about how the government's going to help us keep our team members employed. So looking forward to that news. But in the meantime, that's something that you can really consider. Working from home is something that we've all been encouraged to do. A lot of us are probably doing that already, but I just wanted to cover some tips that I think is really important to make sure that your team members are working from home and doing so well, and being as productive as possible. One of the things that I think is really important is communication, as I've already mentioned. And if somebody's working from home, communication becomes more important. So I would have huddles with my team members. So if you have a sales team or a marketing team, that's they're all working from home at the moment. I would have a daily huddle, where you set out the priorities for the day. You take stock of any actions that were meant to be completed, and that you just check in with everybody to make sure that they're focused and feeling good. What will start to happen is that people will start to feel isolated eventually. So you want to make sure that these huddles come in. Hey, have huddles 2-3 times a day if that's what you think your team needs. But the key thing here is make sure you're communicating, make sure that everybody's focused on what they need to do for the day. Make sure that your team are properly set up. Hopefully you've already gone through all of the preparation from an IT perspective, and that you have VoIP lines set up and all of that kind of thing. But make sure that they've got a proper workspace. If they are going to work from home, establish where they are going to work. Do they have a proper room? Can they set that room up properly? Do they have comfortable chairs? All of those kinds of basic things. It's possible that people might need to work from home for quite a long time. So you want to make sure that they've got a proper working environment. You want to make sure that they have all of the equipment that they need to be able to do their jobs well. I think it's critical for you to have clear expectations with everybody about what working from home looks like, what outcomes you're expecting. Some of my clients are getting their team members to come up with little timetables almost of kind of like how the day is going to be structured and what people are going to do. This becomes even more important if you've got some team members working from home that might need to look after some kids, after their children. So having some clear expectations about what does working from home actually look like, how's it going to be structured, what do you expect it to actually do, and the outputs. That's really, really important. Make sure that you've got some KPIs in place. If you don't have KPIs in place, it might be a good time to start thinking about them. But hopefully you do have some KPIs in place. You also need to think about what objectives you need to give your team members. Those two things are really important. And then finally, making sure that you are utilizing messaging apps so that there's nice fluid communication. That could be as simple as using something like WhatsApp, or you could use smarter things like Trello, Microsoft Teams, all of that kind of stuff. Embrace video conferencing if you haven't already. Zoom, GoToMeeting, Skype, all of those tools are really important. So make sure that you've got some proper video conferencing kit. It's set up. People know how to use it. For those of you that have extroverts that might be working from home, one of the things that one of my clients shared with me is that they have basically like a video conference running, so they can, so every team member has on their screen their colleagues with the videos up, and everyone's just working, and it kind of feels like you're still part of a team because you can see your team members. And I think that, it's okay for the first couple of days, isn't it? If you're isolated for the first couple of days, you can manage that. But if this is going to carry on for 2 or 3 weeks, I think you need to look at creative ways like this to make sure that that morale is high, that the team members that you have on your team are really happy and they feel like they're still part of a team. That's really, really important. So take some time here to make sure that you just take stock of any actions that you need to take to help your business over this next period in terms of managing your team. Do you need to get better on the communication elements? Do you need to think about how you can do, reinforce your policies around kind of working properly, making sure that you are perhaps getting the most out of your team members working from home. All right, so let's move on to marketing. So now is not the time to stop marketing. If you stop doing the marketing activity in your business right now, you're going to cause challenges down the line, and you may not then have enough sales in 3, 4, 5, 6 months time to give you the cash flow that you need to be able to survive and thrive off the back of this. So do not stop any marketing. If you are absolutely run off your feet at the moment, that's fine. Still dedicate some time to keeping the marketing machine going. Uh, the key thing for me is stick to what works. Make sure that you're only investing in those marketing strategies that generate a return on investment. And my recommendation is that you test and measure everything here. You need to have proper metrics. You need to make sure that you have proper KPIs in place to actually understand what's working and what's not working in this space. Increase your activity levels if that is at all possible. Again, just like I said, with communication, you can't be really communicating enough. I don't think you can be doing enough marketing at the moment. I think you need to really make sure that your prospects and your customers really have you front of mind. A lot of people are going to pull back. A lot of your competitors are not going to be marketing and advertising now. Make sure that you are doing that. Again, make sure that it's not anything that's a bit of a vanity project. Make sure that this is stuff that is going to generate leads, results. You can't tie up any cash flow in anything that's not going to demonstrate a quick return on investment. Monitor your KPIs weekly here. Make sure that you are looking at how many inquiries are coming into your business. Make sure you understand your conversion rate. Make sure that you understand what the return on investment on any digital marketing might be, for example. Make sure that you have a handful of marketing and sales metrics and that you are all over those. If you don't have these metrics in place, you're going to have to get them in place. And if you do have them in place, I sometimes find that when people are under pressure, they stop looking at these numbers. They might still be collected, but they stop analyzing the numbers. Do not stop analyzing the numbers. That's really, really important. With everything that's changed, you might need to review your marketing messaging. So make sure that your messaging is aligned to what the market, what your customers need and want right now. That is really, really important. Otherwise, you will not get traction. So reframe messages where that is relevant. Make sure that you update creative, update your copy. Make sure that this is just, take a step back and make sure that we're not just replaying the same old stuff. If it works and it's still relevant, great. But if you just take the time to make sure that that is the case, that's really, really important. And just in case the message wasn't clear enough, make sure you increase your activity levels. It's really, really important now that you do lots and lots of really good, solid marketing to help your business get out the back of this properly. Some things that you might need to think about is, for some of you, you might really need to try and understand if your existing business model is still okay for the next few months. Do you need to pivot if things aren't working, or do you persevere if things are working? So this is about whether you need to, for most of us, you are going to have to shift your distribution to online. So in other words, if you share information, provide any service, that is almost certainly going to go virtual. But there might be some other things that you might need to think about in terms of really modifying the way that you work at the moment and adapting to be able to keep your business going and to keep servicing your customers. If you're in one of these positions where you're like a supermarket, for example, and it's going hunky-dory, then it doesn't really matter. Then you're fine. You might still need to change some of your operating procedures, and you might need to adapt, but not quite as dramatically as if you're, for example, a pub. We see a lot of pubs at the moment of pivoting over to more of a kind of a takeaway service. So just think about your business. Think about whether you need to really brainstorm a new way of working. Look at what the market needs from you, and really, confront your reality. If the existing way is not going to work, you need to find a new way. That's really important. So in summary, it's critical now that you are proactive, that you adapt as the situation changes, that you are positive. You have to be positive. Is what your people want, and you need to lead. You really need to give your customers, your team members, your suppliers, you need to give everybody the confidence that you are on this, that you've got a plan and that you're working that plan. Your plan will probably change. It's such a fast-moving situation. Over the last few days, there's been such a rapid change in events that your plan will change, but it does not reduce the importance of that plan. Have a plan in place, work that plan. If your environment changes, if the conditions change, update your plan, and make sure that you communicate that plan to your management team and to all of the key stakeholders that you need to communicate it to. There will be challenges, guys, but you need to address these challenges in a calm and measured way. Make sure that you are taking the emotion out of this. Make sure that you're looking at things logically. Make sure that you are balancing short-term, medium-term, and long-term here. You definitely want to preserve cash. You definitely want to make sure you're looking after your team members. You want to make sure that you are positioning yourself to be able to accelerate off the back of this thing. So please don't make any rash decisions. Don't come at this from an emotional space, because that's really not going to serve you. And finally, when there are big changes, when the landscape changes, there are so many opportunities if you look for them. So make sure that as you go through this, everything that I've covered is a bit of a contagion plan. So this is about mitigating the impact on your business, but open your eyes to the opportunities out there. There are so many opportunities if you are taking the time to understand them. So I hope you found that training session useful. The key thing for you to do now is to really sit down and take the time to put together a plan of the actions that you need to implement to help your business get through this over the next few months. If you want any help, my contact details are below. Just get in touch. Stay safe out there and take care, everyone.